Monday is Africa Day, and on this day in 1963, Africa made history with the founding of the Organization of African Unity, the precursor to the African Union. Africa Day is intended, of course, to celebrate and acknowledge the successes of the AU in the fight against colonialism and apartheid, as well as the progress that Africa itself has made, while reflecting upon the common challenges that the continent faces in the global environment. Now, under extraordinary conditions, the world itself, including Africa, contends with COVID-19. What does this mean for Africans, Agenda 2063, and of course our unity through this? Yaa Ashantewaa Archer Ngidi is director of the Institute of Afrikology. She joins us now to talk about and answer this question. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us, Yaa Ashantewaa. Let's first start with these extraordinary times.
Thank you for having me.
We've seen, in fact, I saw an article raising the questions whether or not we are being acknowledged, the kind of solutions that we are bringing to the table as Africans in the fight against COVID-19, or are we just being ignored for the US and other countries in Europe, which are seen, depending on your prism, of course, from which you look at things, as more advanced? So, Yaa Ashantewaa, I'm asking this question, whether or not we are making strides within the context of COVID-19, because some are asking the question, are we getting our dues in the efforts that we're making, the solutions that we're proffering in the fight against COVID-19, or are we once again being overshadowed by the US and countries in Europe?
Well, greetings to your viewers, and you're looking amazing, my sister queen.
Thank you.
You know, I just want to greet all the Africans who are listening in to such an amazing program. This year, as you know, we are still talking about silencing the guns. So let us not forget that Africa is still about silencing the guns because we want peace and prosperity. Now we have been faced with a peculiar challenge. And as I say to most Africans who are in this dilemma, we have seen this before. We are people who have seen plagues, we have seen diseases, we have seen many of them. We must remember the great Congolese people, how they overcame Ebola. So we have a system in us, in our genes as Africans, to overcome and resolve and to survive. With all of that, as we go towards Africa Day, I believe that our leaders are beginning to come to their senses. A part of me wish there was more women in control of how we can command, you know, how African people respond to this scourge of COVID-19. But I believe that in the nooks and crannies across Africa, when I go to different rural areas, I believe that Africans believe in each other so much that we already have a resolve in the back of our heads that we must overcome this. We must resolve this. So I've seen the discipline that we have so long for, where, you know, for a long while we have seen a lot of indisciplined behavior. We're seeing Africans really rethink their behavior when we have been given an instruction that we must be careful and embrace at the understanding that each one must look out for the other.
But how do we do that? Yaa Ashantewaa, how do we do that? Looking at those Renaissance Pan-African values, for instance, or traditions, we are obviously looking back to what has been penned as a blueprint for what Africa should be. Are we evolving in doing that? You speak about the role of women. Has there been evidence of their contribution in the past when we celebrate Africa Day and the teachings of our leaders and what they have created as a vision for us?
Well, when we were in Addis in 2015, under the theme of the Year of Women's Empowerment and Development towards the Agenda 2063, we understood that our people have learned bad habits, patriarchy. They have learned how to disrespect women. So we are tidying up the attitudes and habits of our leaders who tend to think that women are still behind. And thanks to, at the time, our chair, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, she brought us the letter to Kwame, which says that we would have gone in 2063, women would not have to ask to enter a meeting or to be begging to be leaders, but we would have naturally become what we have to do. With that saying, men are still abusing our women. Even in COVID, it was a dilemma to think that men even get to the point where, and they're cowards, by the way, any man who abuses a woman in Africa are cowards. Whether they swear at them, whether they beat them, whether they psychologically, they are just cowards. So we know that we have a traumatic group of men who needs to work on their trauma, and that's one aspect of it. In the bigger scheme of things, what we know is that women are becoming more collective in their efforts. Women are not anymore waiting to be told what the solutions are, but are giving the solutions to Africa's, what the Africa we need for ourselves, because we are the ones who are the custodian of the Africa for the future. And we will work with men who understand that, not from a point of whether we are above or below, but because we are the center of everything that happens in our home, everything that happens in Africa, everything that happens, in our communities.
So take
COVID
that
presents us, my sister,
so take
with
that
a
principle,
point where
Yaa
I have
Ashantewaa.
seen women across the African continent getting together to come up with innovations. And what excites me, one of the innovations that excite me was that Africa...
Okay, I'm not sure if we've lost that line, but Yaa Ashantewaa, so I was saying, take what you're saying and place it within the COVID-19 situation. There have been all kinds of questions being raised about Madagascar, the solution, organic solution that it's been offered. But at the heart of it is, indigenous knowledge of Africa and Africans. And I want you to tell us what role we can play in providing solutions within this current context of the global world order that we live in, and how women, how young people can do that. Of course, also within the principles of Agenda 2063, what we are seeking to achieve.
Wonderful. Well, Madagascar presents two positions. We will either give value to our indigenous scientists, or we will continue to run to France and America and all these Western countries to give us solutions when everyone knows that we have been healing ourselves, whether some people go in the dead of the night to visit their traditional healers or in the dawn of the morning, but we have found ways to get to help us. And in 2017, when the the African Center for Disease Control and Prevention was launched, the idea was to now use the Western form that we have become so accustomed to, but to give value and honor the indigenous knowledge. And I think Madagascar throws to the table, whether African leaders, whether African doctors, those in their white jackets, if they are ready to humble themselves to the fact that Africans have had remedies for more than 1,000 years that are still being used, even though we are not in the nice labels or in pharmaceuticals in the different cities of Africa. But it presents a very opportune time for indigenous knowledge and African doctors and healers who have been using Western systems to come together and say, but we are problem solvers. No longer are we the problem, but we are now giving the solution.
Now,
and
I think that's what
the
final question, Yaa Ashantewaa. 1963 to 2063, has the dream been deferred? Has it evolved? And who should be the custodian of that dream?
The dream has not been deferred. We will in 2063. The children will come and tell us that the guns have been silenced. The young women will tell us that husbands do not beat them, but they put them on high stools when they come home. The children will tell us that we have built bigger universities made upon African-centered principles. The media will tell us that they have so much good news to tell about Africa. Nobody wants to hire youth to PISO. Our health systems will now become a balanced one of using our traditional methodology and the others that we have become accustomed to. So we are in a process of getting it right. And what makes me happy is that our young people are impatient. Our women are now more decisive. And the political leaders are realizing more than ever that because of the internet, because of technology, young people cannot be bought to vote. They will have to prove themselves. And so I believe that the one word that will carry us through, my sister Stepiso, is that we are resilient people. We will never give up. We will always innovate. But most importantly, 2063, we will say we have become a unified Africa without these useless borders, which means nothing to us.
All right,
we have become one Africa.
That's a good note to end it on. Thank you very much. Yaa Ashantewaa Archer Ngidi.
Thank you so much. Happy Africa Day.
And happy Africa Day to you in advance as well. She's the director of the Institute for Afrikology, and it's also what we are reflecting on here on The Full View in the lead up to that day.